Hey, today I'm going to take you behind the scenes of how I can sell 10K, 20K, 50K type of high ticket programs without using any sales calls whatsoever, by using a series of different emails, having one-to-one conversations with leads, and ultimately closing them without jumping on a phone call whatsoever. Most people will tell you that is not it's not possible whatsoever. But today I'm going to show you some actual copy that I produced, walk you through my process to show you how it is all possible. And for the program that I was using, show the actual copy of how I was going to present their offer, how I was actually going to price it, and how it can also help you, especially if you got a high ticket program, potentially monetize some of those leads or low ticket buyers that you might just have sitting there that you know there's value in, but you don't know how to get in conversations with them, re-engage with them, and get them closing in within your program. So it's the first time joining one of my lives. I'm Brian Czekanski, and I focus on working with coaches and high ticket programs where, again, you have a low ticket product, or maybe you have a webinar where you've sent a bunch of money to Zuckerberg or to Google, you've accrued all these leads, but hey, they opted in maybe 30 days ago. You know there's value there, but you don't know how to bring them back into a sales conversation for whatever reason. They haven't joined your webinar, they haven't booked a sales call. All those points, there's multiple points along a typical sales funnel, especially from a webinar perspective. In this case, we're talking about a live webinar where people just don't show up, they don't hear the offer. My process allows you to kind of create a bolt-on profit center where you can start re-engaging, and I can close those people on your behalf. And I'm going to show you kind of the behind the scenes on how I can do this, kind of using an example today. This is actually a partnership that I had linked up with. It was a crypto investing mastermind. For whatever reason, our partnership was broken up before we could actually go to that testing phase. But the unique opportunity today is I can show you I did some of the work in terms of writing up, doing some of the copywriting, research into the offering. And I'm going to show you today some of the copy that I was going to use that's kind of sitting on the cutting room floor right now. But I want to bring it to you to give you a better idea of what my process looks like, how I took this program, came up with a different hook than what they're using right now, and how it's going to re-engage some of these people along the way by kind of really bringing to life their proven system and their approach to getting into a space in the crypto and Bitcoin space where people always want, like, they want to be invested in that market. They just don't know how. So like, this is an innovative solution where people can come in, control their own account, even if they don't have any trading experience whatsoever. It allows them to start from the ground floor, get involved in that Bitcoin market. When the Bitcoin market goes up, down, sideways, they've got an innovative type of structure. So I'm going to show you the copy of what that looks like, how I use kind of this personal invitation type of email to get people to raise their hand and ultimately get to the point where we get into a sales conversation and I can answer any objections, handle any questions in the same way that you would jump on a sales call with somebody and learn all about their background first. I'm doing the same thing, just all via email. So in that way, I'm not asking for their time. They reply back when it makes sense for them. I reply back when it makes sense for me, constantly following up with people and ultimately getting to the point where I close and monetize some of these leads that might be just sitting on your books and you just don't know what to do with them. But obviously you're paying an ESP, you paid Zuckerberg or Google for those leads. So you know there's value there, but you just don't know what is potentially a high ticket client and who isn't. So my process makes it really easy to kind of go through those leads really quickly, seeing what value is there and what isn't, and kind of really understand what are some of those objections, what are some of those questions, and what are those segments on your list. How can we break down your list maybe into 4 or 5 segments and become a lot more specific in terms of the opportunity that they're looking for and how we can get them there faster. So I'm going to just pull up again kind of the doc that I put together in this program. So again, just to give you a little bit more background in terms of what this program was all about. So in this program, the way that they're selling it is kind of via a live webinar. So you have to show up on a certain day at a certain time to kind of experience these guys live. And once you do, they have a mastermind invitation at the end of that. Again, a couple things stood out to me as I went through that webinar. I was super impressed. I was ready to buy right away. But one thing that held me back from buying, and I know it held back a lot of people from buying, is their pricing is super low. I didn't really understand that at first. I thought there was something missing, but as I went through the program and kind of experienced what they're going through, like it really was a function of kind of a little bit more of marketing more than anything else. It's not that they have, they're hiding anything or something like that. So again, think of it as like a Rolls Royce. If somebody goes up to you and says like, okay, I'm going to sell you a Rolls Royce for 10 grand, like you'd have a degree of skepticism. You probably wouldn't jump at that. You'd think like, okay, what's wrong with this? And I kind of had that same frame point as in mind as well. But like as I got into the program, as I got to know them a little bit better over and above that live webinar, I knew that there was just kind of a disconnect between how they were marketing their process and potentially getting people in along the way. So again, even if I provided no, like even if I just provided the same, if I put this offer in front of more people and all those people that didn't join the live webinar, I got in front of those people and put that offer in front of them and got to know them a little bit better and kind of fix their pricing to where it should be. I knew that I could monetize some of these leads that they had, just because there was a lot of leads that again hadn't shown up for that live webinar, that time didn't make sense for them, or like any number of things where they just forgot about it. Again, especially if you sign up for a live webinar in one day and it's the following week, like how much in your mind are you going to really think about that? And I know for a lot of this audience, like crypto is obviously top of mind for a lot of people. You see it in the headlines all the time. There's been amazing returns for Bitcoin. Go back the last 10 years in terms of what it's been able to achieve. So again, especially in a market where the stock market might be at its all-time highs, especially when the US dollar is kind of crumbling, especially when inflation is high, everybody's looking for these returns. Everybody's looking to get into these markets. And this is a great way to do it. And I can tell you in going through the program and being a buyer of the program that they're kind of backing up and providing great value and kind of backing up their promises here as well. So like, again, everything that I wrote down in these promises, they're backed up in their program. And I feel really good about, if we were to go forward with this test, being able to help people along the way, get involved with Bitcoin, but also if they don't have training experience, they kind of walk you through from absolute beginner to becoming an expert and giving you the steps along the way. So again, how I present these offers to people and how I monetize a lot of these leads to people on the list is really by starting with kind of a personal invitation, thinking of it as like, okay, how can I be a little bit more personalized? How can I actually get that offer in front of people? And how can I lay out the differentiators as part of that? So again, for this offer, I did speak to some of their program members. That was probably after I wrote this. So again, in having some of those program member interviews, I kind of learned a lot more about what those differentiators were over and above what they talked about in their webinar and things like that. So like post those member interviews, I probably would have scrapped a lot of this stuff in here just because there's a lot of great insights in there. But I was perfectly fine with kind of running this test to see what the response was. And obviously I had those assets and those distinctions that I got from the members. So I could have obviously made some tweaks to this along the way, but this was kind of just, again, being a buyer of the program makes it a little bit easier because again, I've gone through it with kind of that lens of like, okay, they convinced me to get into the program. And once I took a look into the program, I saw that they were really backing up what they were talking about in that live webinar and going through that. So that is super helpful, especially in this case where I can be a buyer of the program, where I believe in that. That's what I'm looking for 9 times out of 10. Doesn't always happen, but in this case, it was super helpful. So again, starting out with kind of like a personal invitation. So letting people know like what is actually happening. We want to start with like catching people's attention by starting out with that opportunity. We don't want to get into the price. We don't want to get into the features or the benefits of the program. We just want to let them know like what is involved here. How is this going to change their life? How is it going to change the trajectory of what they're looking for? So again, in this instance, I was just kind of laying out like, hey, over the next few weeks, like we're going to do this over Zoom. So like that's kind of how the program is designed. And then we get into like for their program, they like those kind of more entrepreneurial type of people within their program because they're more of those risk takers. They know that they know that wealth isn't going to be created overnight. So as we talked about and got into their program, like those are the people that tended to do well. So again, as I kind of talk with them, as I got to know their program a little bit better, I want to focus on those people that are getting success, and I want to start attracting more of those people within that program. Not to say that people that aren't entrepreneurs can't do well in this program, but I want to fill as many spots as possible with those people that are the right match, kind of line up with the qualities of success stories that they've had in the past. so that we get more testimonials, we get more success stories, and it becomes kind of this flywheel of just making it super easy to attract more and more people into the program. I don't want to just fill bodies into their mastermind. I want to fill it with the right type of people who are going to take action, who are going to recognize risk, they're going to follow directions, they're coachable. So we went through all those different qualities to make sure that I am filling their program with as many people as possible that fit the characteristics of people that have done well in the past, and kind of that entrepreneurial type of mindset was a big part of that. So that's why I'm really calling it out pretty much from the top in terms of that. And then how I kind of like the metaphor or the kitchen table logic in terms of how I was going to bring their mastermind and really pitch it to their leads was kind of making it more mechanized. So I want to take their system and make it simple, repeatable. Again, if you've never traded before in your life, this is why this is going to work for you. And again, the unique objection that most people have from a high ticket perspective is this going to work for my unique situation? The way I can really answer that from the jump is talking about that simple system that we have along the way. So I created, this is the name that I came up with after doing some research: House Edge Crypto Trading Strategy. Again, just not a name that they use, but a name that I came up with to kind of mechanize it a little bit. So I'm going to really focus my attention on this simple trading system that anybody can use. If you've never traded a stock or a bond or a crypto or a Bitcoin or any kind of coin in the past, like this can work for you. And I'm going to go through, as I go through this invitation, like how it's going to work for you, go through the details of that. And you'll see that in just a second. And then we get into like this specific promise. So again, this is something that the leader of the group kind of said over and over again. I'm kind of like I'm writing this invitation kind of on his behalf. So like everything, the sign off would be under his name. But I look for some of those things that some of his members would repeat over and over again, but something that he would repeat over and over again because I knew that would work, and it kind of went to his voice as well. Like I want to be writing this on, if you're a business owner, I want to be writing in your voice so that it seems authentic and it kind of lines up with your marketing that you're doing right now. So again, kind of the simple promise at the top here in terms of like start pulling money out of the Ethernet from their phone, their iPad, their laptop, anywhere in the world, and by doing it in 3 to 4 hours a week. So again, the simple promise, again, it might not make sense from the very top of like pulling money out of the Ethernet. Like, what does that actually mean? But the idea is that like, okay, we can make money really easily without the hassles, especially if you're an entrepreneur, of not having to deal with employees and vendors and all this kind of stuff. Like this is an easy way to generate some additional income, maybe on the side. Maybe this becomes your main hustle over time as you become more of an expert. But the idea is that all the members that kind of join here, they're kind of bought into this crypto bull run that we might be going through right now, and they want to participate in it. It's a way of like whether the market goes up, down, or sideways, to participate in it, regardless if you don't have a ton of time. Like especially if you're running a business, you don't have 40 hours a week to do that. So again, another differentiator of the system is like, hey, 3 to 4 hours a week is all you need to start generating like these outside returns within the Bitcoin market, and everything stays within your control. And you'll see why that's important along the way. Then I bring in kind of a metaphor. So like this is a great way, metaphors, analogies. You want to bring your system, you want to bring your marketing in a way that everybody can understand, that they can repeat to their friends and their family. Again, most of these people had no trading experience coming into the program. So I don't want to get into some advanced trading lingo or logic. I don't want to speak above their heads. I want to meet them exactly where they are, assume that they've never traded before in their life, but they want to get involved in this market. And I'm going to start from ground zero and work their way up. So again, everybody kind of knows that analogy, especially from a casino perspective. Like, hey, when you go in a casino, the house is the one that kind of always comes out on top. So like this is the overarching common thread that you'll see within this invitation of, we want to make you, if you want to get involved in the crypto market, you want to trade it, we want to effectively make you the house by using this trading system. So again, everybody knows that the casino, the house wins. Short-term losses do happen when players win, but if you stick to a certain set of principles, they always come out ahead. I call it the house edge strategy. So again, you can see how I'm kind of using something that they would know in their everyday lingo, and think about like that transformation of identity. So like, again, they've never traded before. If you work with us, you'll eventually become the house type of, you'll kind of sit in that house position eventually. And I'm going to walk you through in the rest of this invitation how that's possible. So again, starting with that opportunity, kind of teasing out a little bit more of how it works, but at a very simple level. So again, assuming that you have never traded before in your life, some people have, some people haven't. But I'm going to start and meet you exactly where you are. I'm going to describe how that identity shift is going to happen. And then for the rest of it, I'm going to really fill in some of those more specifics, like how is that possible? Can you provide proof of other people that have been able to do it? Weave in some of his story along the way, and you'll see that in just a second. And kind of get into like, okay, like what are the nuts and bolts of this? So again, as we go back to the house, like we want to become the one with the overall overwhelming advantage in the crypto market. So again, we're kind of teasing out like, okay, like your success is going to be inevitable when you follow our simple system, our principles, all those kind of things. You might not win 100% of the time, just like the house in a casino doesn't win 100% of the time, but you know, 6 or 7 out of 10 times you're going to win. And as you stack those wins over and over again, like your success becomes inevitable. So I really want to bring that forward in my copy. I want to make it really simple for people so that, again, as they join this program, like it doesn't matter what your background is. It doesn't matter how old you are. It doesn't matter what experience you have. Like you can start from ground zero. And in some instances, it's helpful not even to have that trading experience because you don't have those different bad habits or things like that along the way. So if we can start you from a fresh slate, that might actually be beneficial as we go through that. So then I get into like, okay, I've got this big promise, so I've caught their attention. How do I start building on that? How do I start to build credibility? How do I fill in the details for people so that we can get to the point where they join this mastermind and start paying again? In this case, they're either paying 5 or 6 figures. They're either paying they're either paying 7,500 for that annual payment, or they're paying over 10 grand with a monthly payment system along the way. So it's a good chunk of money. But as we talk through the opportunity set, especially in the crypto, especially as you get into Bitcoin, like the amount of returns that they've been able to generate in the past few years, it's a way to get involved with the market, have the expertise and that skill set to do that. And obviously these skill sets are transferable to any other market. So they can do it in stock options, they can do it in other areas as well to make money along the way. So we get into like, okay, if I've never had trading experience, like I'm starting to think about like, what are those objections that my audience would have? Like, so the natural objection is like, okay, if I've never traded before in my life, like how am I going to have this overwhelming advantage in the crypto market? I want to get in front of some of these objections. So like, again, the first objection that I would have is like, how is it possible that I'm going to be able to start making winning trades right away? Like, isn't that going to take years? Is it going to take like a series of different mistakes? Like, and here's where I get into like how that's possible. So like we're talking from like an experienced trader's perspective. That's kind of the leader's experience. Like he's been in this market for decades at this point. So you start by sharing my best trades right as I see them. So like the first part of this program is to get to that overwhelming advantage is like, again, just start following the trade. I'm going to give you my best trades as I put them into my system. You can exactly mirror them along the way. So like, again, even if you know nothing about trading or what you have to do, like all you almost have to do is copy and paste it into your system and start to experience some of those wins along the way. Again, stacking up some trading profits as they see them. And we get into like, again, we get into some of the opportunity. They're going to be so excited they won't be able to sleep over how crazy it is to pull money out of thin air. And the best part, there'll be no cap on how much they can make. So again, we want to prevent, like, again, you can see in terms of the opportunity set here, like this is an opportunity where you can start making money without all the hassles of having years of experience or having the hassles of running a business or having a bunch of overhead or all those different things that are usually associated with making money. Like this is a way to make money within a series of minutes or hours and start to stack those trade wins on top of each other. And that's a way to start generating wealth really quickly versus like, hey, over the next 30 years of me investing in the stock market, buy and hold, that's really going to work for you along the way. And then we get into like all those things, in doing research for this, like all those things that people are doing to try and get into the crypto market right now. So if you got no trading experience right now, you're probably outsourcing some of this to, again, in this case, handing over some of your coins to some rando in a WhatsApp group. So what I found is like a lot of people that get involved with crypto is they're getting scammed a lot because they're trying to outsource it to somebody on the internet that claims that they have lots of experience and has generated lots of profits. And they send their coins over to that person, usually in a WhatsApp group. And what happens is they never see that money again, or that person asks for even more and more money as they try and make withdrawals along the way. The other part is like people are on Twitter, Reddit, they're looking for those meme coins, they're looking to chase some of those profits. They're just looking for information because they don't have any trading experience. So they're looking to depend on everybody else. And what usually happens is they get in at the top, the rug gets pulled out from them, and they have a ton of losses in that way. So again, another one. And then the final one, like, again, I don't have time to become an expert trader. I want to be able to shortcut that process. So this system is a way of getting there on the other side. Again, we kind of further back up this point. So like we tap in the house edge by only entering into what I call profit stack trades that end up winning 70 to 80% of the time. So again, you can see how I created a mechanism for the strategy, but also mechanized like those specific trades that they get into. Again, this isn't the language that the leader of the group talked about, but from a marketing perspective, I want to create almost like intellectual property that's associated with their program and their advice along the way to build up the value, to differentiate it along the way. So again, as I went through the program, like I saw that, okay, from a risk reward perspective, like they only get into certain trades, like knowing when to get in and out of the market is super important. And being able to teach that to other people is something that you can learn really quickly. It's like you don't have to be an expert trader to understand, like, okay, I need to get in at this time because there's a nice reward here. I'm only risking $1 for this, and I'm going to get $3 back. Like this makes a whole bunch of sense for me. So again, coming up with the moniker of profit stack trades makes a big difference on the other end. And then the natural question is like, okay, this all sounds well and good, but like, how does this work for other people just like me? So this is where I get in some of the proof here. So again, you can see how all along the way, I'm trying to get in front of some of these objections. So here's a bunch of different testimonials of people that are getting results really quickly. So again, like Paul made this amount of money in 6 months. This one made it in the first week. They're all making great returns in terms of maybe a monetary number, maybe in terms of their 7 times return, or some kind of mixing up those different things, but also mixing up the different situations. So this happened in the first 10 days. So again, the objection would be like, okay, this all sounds well and great, but I've got to be part of the group for 5 years to experience some of these trades. Well, no, if you're following some of my trades right away, my best trades right away, like you can get results really quickly, whether it's in the first 6 months, whether it's the first week, regardless if you've developed any trading experience or not. Again, the focus on kind of ordinary folks as much as possible. Like you don't have to have these special powers. Again, that's something that I drew out as part of doing some of those member interviews. Is like what differentiates this program is like most other trading systems and programs. They have a certain prerequisite of like, okay, you've got to had been a trader for 5 or 10 years. You have to have a certain skill set, a certain advanced knowledge to get results here. The good part about this program, what really differentiates it, especially in the crypto space, is like, hey, you can be starting from absolute zero. We're going to hold your hand along the way and get you up to that more experienced level. And all along the way, because we are sharing our best trades, like you're going to be able to profit from that. So like that's a big differentiator that came through in that. If I were to rewrite this and edit it a little bit more, I would have really honed into that and give it a little bit more of a stepping stone variation of that. But you'll see how I do that in just a second. And we talk about like, okay, the people that join this insiders group, like we've eliminated every reason why they won't be successful. So again, kind of knocking down all those objections. I'm getting in front of, like, even before you hear what the offer is, like I'm anticipating some of those objections. I'm getting in front of them as much as possible before it even hits your mind, or as it hits your mind. Like I want to have an answer for it, because at the end of the day, people are always going to have hesitations, stuff that holds them back. And again, the only real way that you can really get to know like what are some of these objections, what are these hesitations, is go back to your market, go back to your success stories, and ask them like, what were some of those hesitations that you had in terms of going into my program? Like even as you got into my program, what were some of those obstacles that you faced along the way? And having kind of like mapped that out in terms of like, okay, here's what is going to be in my prospect's mind in terms of like maybe a roadblock or a hesitation. If you can address those things even before you get to their offer, or what your price point is, what everything that's going to include, all that kind of stuff, you're going to be much more successful in monetizing some of these leads along the way. And again, it could be one key objection that is holding people back from getting into your program. That could be the difference between, again, in this instance, like my promise is, and my expectation was in terms of selling this program over the next 12 months, is I think there's at least $1 million kind of sitting right under their nose, just because they are doing it in a live webinar type of format, but also because I think, my ability to kind of fix the pricing a little bit, but also market it in a different way is going to help people get into this program. Again, in this instance, because the partnership kind of blew up before we got to test it, I'll never know. But this kind of walks you through how it's all possible. And then we get into like what, again, if we go back to like a trader, an amateur trader, they've never traded before in the past, like key differentiator for this program is we kind of eliminate kind of that learning period. So most amateur traders go through, they make a ton of mistakes, they blow through a ton of money. In this program, by following this house edge strategy, we kind of get into like what's the differentiator here? How are we going to accelerate my progress? How are we going to start getting me profits in the first week, 10 days, 6 months? The reason we can do that is most amateur traders start out by trading by emotions. Again, I get into like, again, they try and get a hot streak to generate massive wealth. People chase trades, as I kind of mentioned right here. They miss out, like they're the FOMO in terms of like missing some of those future gains. They buy at inflated prices, or the trader that does a significant loss and tries to get it all back. So I just provide like 3 or 4 examples of like that typical trader, all those missteps they typically will use. But again, if you go back to our system, and again, like here, the good part is like I go back to like his experience. So, and to be honest, I made all those mistakes as well. So like the idea in selling this program is like, hey, I've made all the mistakes that you're gonna make. You might as well just avoid them right now. I'll tell you what they are. You can go through them and go through that pain just like I did, or you can just follow my simple system, get to those profits really quickly. I'm going to show you my trades. And I'm going to show you how to actually fish and look for these trades so that you can kind of eliminate that emotion. And emotion, in trading, in the trading landscape it's kind of that number one, like that's their thorn on the side. If you're going to really suffer through some of these challenges, it's kind of like if we can take the emotion out of it, have a much more success and do it. And then again, I kind of bring in the metaphor analogy, that common thread that I'm using along the way. So like being the house in a casino, the house doesn't have an emotion. The house doesn't get excited or have fear. They just keep their head down and play their game over and over again. So like this simple, repeatable process is going to allow us to have that advantage over the long term. But you have to, you almost have to be willing to, again, some might even call it boring, but they always win in the end. So again, like we want to really set the framework of like, we've got a simple, repeatable system here. If you follow it to a T, you're not going to win 100% of the time, but you're going to win 70, 80% of the time. And you're going to stack those wins over and over again. You're going to keep your losses pretty narrow, as I'll mention in just a second, by really getting into, again, I come back to these profit stack trades. And here's the part in my process where I kind of get into like, okay, if the profit stack trades is the vehicle for them to get profits within the crypto market, like here's where I will explain what it is. Like there's certain opportunities where the odds are stacked in your favor. Again, here's where I get into risk reward. So I just assume that they don't know anything about risk reward. So I get down and kind of explain like what it means. Like if you were going to explain it to a third grader, or in my case, like my 7-year-old, like how would you explain it in a way that makes sense? I want to make sure that it really sinks in as well. So like, again, I don't just put a line in it and this is a key part of their process. So like, again, the risk reward has to be stacked in their favor. So I kind of go about it in various different lines. I don't just use one line into it, but I kind of bring back this house example. And again, I'm very upfront in saying like, we lose 20 to 30% of the time. It happens, but we fight up another day. We keep our losses minimal. And then I bring back the casino example again. So like maybe they're a little bit fuzzy on the risk reward part. So like, how can I bring it into life for them? How can I bring it to life in terms of if I go to a casino, how can I make it super easy? Like the odds are stacked in my favor. So again, this was another analogy that the leader of the group always used all the time. So like, imagine that you're playing blackjack, you sit down at that table, the dealer is your best friend and shows you their hand. picks out the mirror from their sleeves. So you can see every card. And then on top of that, you're an MIT graduate who knows the math inside out. So you can see how like, okay, we're stacking things in your favor. So like, again, maybe in this line right here, they got it, but other people will just need a little bit more explanation. So again, I'm assuming that they have no trading experience whatsoever, but this is a key point. I need to like kind of almost like hammer it into their head of like how the odds are going to be stacked in their favor. This isn't something that is like wishy-washy at all. So I use different, like, again, bring it into the metaphor or analogy in terms of that casino available example that everybody would understand, but also at a more basic level, doing it there. So like, again, if they don't really understand this, they're probably not going to buy in. So I spend a good bunch of lines kind of explaining what that is. And then I get into how that does it, and then I kind of explain like, okay, like if these the natural question would be like, okay, if these trades are kind of stacked in your favor, like why don't other investors take advantage of it? And I kind of explained how, again, for this teacher, he obviously gives you the trades, but he also teaches you how to start spotting these things in a volatile market. So again, the good part is in the Bitcoin market, because it is so volatile, it's moving 1 to 5% every single day, or even more, like much more volatile than the stock market, much more volatile than the bond market, or even foreign exchange. So like from a trading perspective, if you're not trading based on emotion, you want to be in that volatile market because it allows you to kind of take profits and get into some of these trades along the way. That volatility is an opportunity for some of these things. So like that is super helpful. And then I got to get into a little bit more in terms of how do we do this. So I want to provide a little bit more detail in terms of like what this opportunity set looks like. So again, when I say I'm going to provide like the trade details, like here's where I put an actual example of, I was going to paste in an example of like the exact trade details. So he provides like an actual stock market chart of what it looks like. He gives you the exact entry points, the take profit, like when to get in, when to get out, where to put your stop loss in terms of that risk management. So they can kind of see almost like inside the platform as much as possible. I want to give them a little bit more insight into what they're going to get even before they get in there. So I kind of give, like, again, I give all those details so they can kind of see that. So if they remember the program, this is exactly what they would see. And I get into some of these other things as well. It's like I get into kind of the journey. So like this is another part as well that most people kind of skip over. But if I join your program today, like what is that stepping stone to, in this case, kind of profiting from trades? So again, I start with like, you start with a few $100s at most and just mirror my trades. Like here's the natural evolution of how you're going to go through my program, become this ultimate success story. Like ultimately, we want to get you to the point where you can generate maybe thousands or tens of thousands of dollars every single month with these trades. That might not happen overnight. For some people, it might, because they have more trading experience and some might not, or it might just come a little bit more naturally. But we want to show you kind of the natural progression of some of our best success stories. And it started out with like, hey, starting out a little bit small. Let's figure out like what your, funding your, exchange account. It might take a few weeks to do that. It might take a few days to do that, whatever it is. But like, as you go through and kind of just follow his trades, you're going to get more confidence. As you get more confidence, and then I kind of get into like, okay, providing some more testimonials along the way. So like Jason, who racks up these wins by just following my trades exactly every week. And again, if you follow nothing else but just follow his trades, that's going to be a very profitable. You're going to get a return on investment by being in this mastermind. And I talked about like, okay, if you want to have some of those weekend getaways, like you can make a few trades during the week. This will more than pay for that, and do it in that way. But you can also, again, what's that next step? So again, you're following the trades, but then you can also join these live trading sessions every single week where he's going to teach you how to fish and look for these opportunities. And again, if you want to trade more, you want to profit more, you want to have more confidence, like here's your window in terms of like getting, like, if you want to get more profits faster, like here's your opportunity in terms of doing that. So what I'm doing is providing that kind of stepping stone. What are the steps to ultimately getting to that opportunity over time so they can kind of actually see it in their own mind? Because again, for a lot of these traders that have never traded before, they're like, how is it possible that I can do this? I'm walking you through. Here's step one. Here's step two. Here's step three. And eventually you're going to get to the point where you are, again, you're going to wake up in the morning, not to an alarm clock, but to the sound of notifications telling you that overnight trades cover your rent, groceries, and a little extra fluff for fun. So I'm providing kind of that almost kind of that dream-like scenario of like, how is this program going to start impacting your life on a daily basis? Like, imagine being able to wake up and seeing like a bunch of different trades that you entered the night before and getting into on the other side. And then we get to the point, again, getting to the end here in terms of like holding your hand along the way, answering some of those objections, getting into like what are the nuance details as we go through that. There was a big drop in terms of Bitcoin over the last few weeks. So I mentioned how, okay, when we do have those big moves in Bitcoin, that's a great opportunity for us. But regardless if Bitcoin drops by 20K in 4 days or not, like our group is naturally taking advantage of these opportunities. I was going to put in a bunch of trade ROI type of snapshots, like kind of a win, the wins that they're seeing within the group, and providing some actual stats behind that. But I talk about like, okay, regardless of whether this stays around for a while or just a short blip, like, if you just follow this simple, repeatable strategy that's proven over time to not only generate profits for the leader of the group, but also the other people in the group, you're going to be well on your way to generating that along the way. And I get a little bit more about the opportunity. So again, for a lot of these people, they're kind of bought into that Bitcoin bull market, but I get into like, okay, what are some of those additional drivers that they might see over time? So hedge funds are getting more and more into the market. ETFs are getting more and more into the market. Banks are getting more and more into the market. So like, hey, this is a great time to get in, kind of producing some of that FOMO. So again, like, hey, you can wait and join this mastermind next year, but now's the best time to join it because the price of Bitcoin is probably only going up because of all these factors as you go along the way. And then we get into a little bit more, here's where we get to the point where we actually provide the price. So again, you want to price anchor along the way. So one of the things that I did was price anchor for the leader of the group. He spent 30K probably 10 or 20 years ago for his trading program, using that as an anchor, like 30K. Okay, I'm not going to charge you that, but I will charge you this on an annual basis. And then providing a special opportunity. So in this case, like the usual mastermind where it should be, and in terms of my research and what other competitors were charging, it should be at least 10K. But I'm giving them a special opportunity. Like if they pay in full right now, they can get in for only 7,500 on that annual basis. And again, if 7,500 is too much for you right now, hey, I've got this monthly payment plan that you can follow. I think it was $834 a month, so that comes out to a little bit more than 10 grand over the year. Again, so you're kind of paying that full price for the membership. Again, as I kind of thought about it as well, like 7,500 is as I go through this program and as I bought it myself, like 7,500 was probably a steal for this program as I thought about it, but I was willing to kind of test that out. It was a significantly higher number than what they're charging right now. For more of that kind of, not even on an annual basis, they're kind of charging once to get membership for life. So again, one part of the test here and one part of what I was really excited about was just kind of realigning the pricing with what competitors were charging. And if anything, I think these guys should be charging a premium to what some of those other competitors are charging, because again, they're allowing you to come in with no trading experience whatsoever. Most of these other programs, you have to have 5 or 10 years of trading experience. Like there's prerequisites for trading experience along the way. So like in this case, like they're starting you from ground zero. They're sharing some of their best trades. They're showing you how to find these profit stack trades, as I call them, along the way, and getting people on the other side. So hope that was helpful. Kind of a unique opportunity. Again, in this instance, it was a partnership that I was really excited about. And for whatever reason, it kind of blew up before we got to test, but a unique opportunity for you to kind of see behind the scenes how I kind of use these personal invitations. How do I, in this case, take a unique angle that they might not be using to reposition the offer, get people excited about the opportunity. In this instance, I would have them reply back to that initial email, get a little bit more about their background so I can personalize that offer that I just shared with you as much as possible with them, share specific testimonials, people just like them that have achieved results. If they're a more advanced trader, I'd probably take a different approach. If they're a more beginner trader, I've never traded before, Like I would present the offer in a different way. So again, my way of kind of using my process all via email, not jumping on any sales calls whatsoever. I can have these personal one-to-one sales conversations, present your offer in a unique way, and ultimately monetize some of those leads or low ticket buyers that might be just sitting on your list right now. Maybe you're paying active campaign, maybe you're paying, ConvertKit, any number of ESPs. That you've paid Zuckerberg, you pay Google for these leads. You might as well see if they can be monetized. And in my process, I kind of sit as kind of a bolt-on profit center. So I'm not going to step on any toes of any opportunities you have right now, but I want to engage with those leads that you've kind of given up on. So usually for most business owners, it's after 30 days or 21 days. That's where I want to start engaging with your prospects, reactivating them, but also re-engaging them back into a sales conversation, all via email. And getting your offer in front of them in a personalized way and really connecting those testimonials, handling their objections, handling any questions that they have, and getting more people into your high ticket program, and hopefully getting them into your continuity, and helping them become success stories and testimonials for you. And again, not just putting bodies into your high ticket program, but the right people that you're looking for in terms of those characteristics, like people that have a success in your program. Like, hey, what are some of those characteristics that I can look out for? What are those red flags that I should put some people to the side for? Like, I want to make sure that they're right fit for your program. So if this was helpful to kind of see behind the scenes of how I'm doing this from an email sales perspective, hit like on whatever platform you're looking on right now. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments. If you're watching on YouTube, hit that subscribe button and that notification bell, and I'll see you on a future live.